Today's guest is a retired Navy captain from West Virginia. He's logged more than 8,800 hours of flight time, 4,700 hours in jet aircraft alone. He became an astronaut candidate in January of 1978, became an astronaut in August of 1979. He's a member of the first class of space shuttle pilots. He served as the lead chase pilot for the maiden voyage of Columbia in 1981, Capcom for STS-5, STS-6, and STS-7. He served as pilot on STS-41G in October of 1984 aboard Challenger. This was the 13th space shuttle mission and the first time a crew of 7 astronauts went into space. He retired from NASA and the Navy in May of 1989. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a warm welcome for astronaut John McBride.
Oh boy, aging is a thing, isn't it? But not to age is not the best alternative either. But I was concerned about what I was seeing here when I put these together about the aging process, because one of the things I want to do in my life is to go back in space. As a matter of fact, I'd like to go maybe in 10 years or so, be the oldest guy. Break John Glenn's record is a great friend. But that would be a nice thing. Anyway, as you heard, we've been launching men and women into space now for 50 years. As a matter of fact, this Thursday, May the 5th, will be 50 years. This Thursday will be. We used our very last Apollo spacecraft in 1975 to survive until the first flight of our space shuttle. In 1977, NASA said we're looking for people to come down to Houston to fly this magnificent new machine called Shuttle, and several thousand of us put in our applications. I think they looked at about 9,000 pretty seriously. Culled that down to 200. And out of that 200, they would invite 10 or 15 per week for about 6 months. And so during the whole year of 1977, they screened those applicants, and in January of 1978, they picked 35. I was lucky, I'm the guy right here. In alphabetical order from back Luther, our first African-American to fly. Over to Don Williams in the middle, Sally Ride, and there are 5 other women. First American woman to fly in space from my class. April 12, 1981, exactly 20 years to the day after Yuri Gagarin became the first human being in space. He beat Alan Shepard by about a month. He flew in April of 1961. Alan Shepard flew in May of 1961. Launch. Give ourselves a whole 6 seconds to make sure everything's working, because at T0 there's a big kaboom as we start the solid rocket boosters. See those babies there? A little over 2 billion pounds per solid rocket booster. You're accelerating so quickly that you're 100 miles an hour by the time we get to the top of the tower. Pretty quickly. Don't leave here today without riding our shuttle launch experience. This is as close as you're going to come to this. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to be your first hand look at what it's like to ride the shuttle. We fly vertically for a few seconds, then we roll over on our back and head out toward the eastern horizon. Good look at Cocoa Beach behind you there. We're accelerating so quickly that we go supersonic in less than a minute, and there goes the shock wave. At about 2 minutes into the flight, we separate our solid rocket boosters pyrotechnically, so there's another big kaboom. As they accelerate, one goes left and one goes right. After the fuel is expended, they're approaching the Atlantic Ocean. They will deploy parachutes out of their nose cone and float down in the water. The shuttle continues for a little over 6 more minutes. And then we separate that big tank, another big kaboom. Start the tank tumbling back toward Earth so that it burns up during re-entry. Consequently, the only thing that makes it to orbit is the space shuttle and its crew and its precious cargo. The crew's precious too. So the only thing that does not get reused is this tank. We have to build and use one of those on each and every flight. That's kind of the limiting factor now that obviously I was honored to fly with, train with, and be with these people. We go through a lot of training to fly in space, including how to live and work in zero gravity, which we can do for a few seconds. I'm getting Kathy in her suit to charge in Ohio. The Endeavor's out here on Launch Pad 39A waiting for launch, which won't be tomorrow. I guess you heard that. Sadly. Maybe Tuesday, maybe right. Dulles Field in Virginia, Andrews in Maryland, the Potomac River out of West Virginia. Over the Irish Sea, and the east coast of Scotland and Wales, the southwestern tip of England, the whole country of Ireland, except for the west coast province. A few seconds later, looking eastward with the wide-angle camera called Linhof. You can see the Cyprus, all the country of Israel, with the Dead Sea, the Suez Canal. Once again, if it's something you'd like to do, this is a good day to start thinking about it. Study hard, listen to your parents, stay in school, do all those right things. Got time for a couple of questions. Mike?
Hello, it's wonderful. I've always wanted to ask, with all the training, does it really train you for the feeling when you take off with those boosters?
You can simulate it for a second or two, but there's nothing like the real thing. We cannot simulate going from 0 to 100 miles an hour with 7 million pounds of thrust. We have simulators in Houston, Texas that lift off the floor and will fly you for about 50 feet up the rails to give you the sensation, but it's nothing like this thing down here. So you can practice all you want to, but there's nothing like the real thing with that 7 million pounds of thrust.
Why is the shuttle being grounded?
Ooh. Do you have a dictionary at home? When you get back, open up a P, look under politics. That's the main reason. With the shuttle flying as well as it ever has, a lot of us, I'm sure JR would agree, are kind of a little myth that we're not keeping it around long enough to transition to our next manned vehicle. There's going to be a 3 or 4 or 5 year period now where we don't have the capability of long-term Americans from Kennedy will be dependent upon our friends from Russia, which is, I'm glad they're our friends, to transport us back and forth from space station on Soyuz. So it wasn't very good planning on our part. We had what we call the Lunar Mars Initiative back in 2004 to go back to the moon and on to Mars by 2030, but somebody forgot to fund it. Congress and the president. Now you can't blame this on the Democrats or Republicans, Bush or Obama or the Senate or the House. It's just, I call it a systemic meltdown over the last 20 or so years where just everybody kind of fell asleep and got overwhelmed with what they, I guess, would perceive as higher priority items. Forgot that space and the things we've done in the last 50 years is probably one of the higher priority items because we get a lot of things back from the investment that we put into space technology. It affects the quality of your life every day. So we hate to see it come to kind of a semi-stop when we should be, I think, moving faster than we ever have.
And here's our last question.
What's the difference between an astronaut and a cosmonaut? And what do you have to study in school to become an astronaut?
We've got astronauts who are physicists, oceanographers, engineers, medical doctors, so you can study anything. As you can imagine, NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, so we are interested in science and technology, so that's a good way to go. The only difference really between an astronaut and a cosmonaut is the language. We're speaking Ruski, we're cosmonaut. We're speaking English, we're astronauts. We're speaking Chinese, taikonaut. So there's 3 types now.
Astronaut John McBride, ladies and
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much.